On this week's show of Whitetail Edge, I'm going after a deer I call Scrape Master, and this deer lives in Illinois. And you're going to grind it out with us for 5 days until we kill this big buck on day number 6. And it's got a lot of excitement in it, and it's a fast happening hunt when it finally happens. So hang on to the edge of your seat. Hopefully you're going to learn something and you'll enjoy this hunt as much as I did.
Was this deer taken during the archery season?
How can anybody not do this, man?
For archery, that's 1. For gun, that's 2.
Welcome to Season 2 of Whitetail Edge.
What type of bow was used?
We killed 11 bucks, averaging 161 inches across the board.
For a buck with antlers, that's 1.
We hope you enjoy it.
Whitetail Edge is presented by Black Widow Deer Lures.
As we decide that we're going to go hunt Scrape Master in Illinois on this farm, from the intel that we had been given by the cameras, we decided, all right, it's time to get out there and get after this deer. He's on his feet. He's on his feet at the right time of day. He feels comfortable. The camera that we have on this scrape is close to bedding, but we can access it and check it without really bothering the deer. And I don't know if you the viewer maybe read some of my articles in the past, but I wrote a couple for Bow Hunter, and one of them was called Booneritis, and in that article I talk about how deer have zones. Well, primary zones are where deer bed, where they stage up, and where they're left alone. And you really don't want to infiltrate those primary zones too often, because once you do, you trip them bucks up. They know that something's right, or something's wrong, I'm sorry. The secondary zones, which are field edges, fields, feeding sources, where the deer are commonly used to encountering humans or tractors or vehicles or gate slamming, things like that. You can get away in being more active in those areas, and the deer won't necessarily vacate.
Gonna be a beautiful buck. He's got that nice kicked out rack. Spread wise. He come in, took that guy's girlfriend, and he left.
Well, that's what we did on this hunt. Where this camera was and where we were getting pictures of Scrape Master, we could access through the field pretty easily. It was a little bit of a walk, but we never had to infiltrate his bedding area to check on him.
We're getting back into this spot where we had those bucks last night chasing does around. Definitely showing some rutting activity. They weren't huge bucks, but they were, it was a promising sign. So we're gonna go in here this morning and hunt this spot, see if we can't get this wind right. See if we can catch some of these deer filtering back through coming from these cornfields, headed back to bedding areas. We're not even seeing any like 140s or 150s. I don't understand. It's like, where are they? I mean, these are big bodied deer for out here. These little 3.5-year-old bucks are pretty good size. Maybe that's a 2.5-year-old. I don't know for sure, but it's cool seeing them.
So why does Whitetail Edge use Black Widow deer lures? It's 100% pure whitetail deer urines. It's never brown or broken down. Black Widow deer lures are always fresh, collected and bottled within 24 hours of collection to guarantee freshness. So why should you use Black Widow deer lures? Because it works. Visit www.blackwidowdeerlures.com.
Well, we kept watching the winds, the weather, kept watching the camera, and man, he just wasn't there. And we were hunting our tails off for days, like 4 days straight. We hunted all day. I figured he must be across the road or somewhere else with another doe that had popped, because all of a sudden that night, he showed back up on the camera. I said he came back right at dark and he checked that scrape. He was with the doe. He did his business. That doe's done. Now he's back on this farm and he's looking for the doe that's going to pop. I said, we have to hunt that scrape tomorrow and we have to sit there all day. I knew that he would walk past that spot in daylight at some point. We went ahead and got back in that stand. The next morning we made our trek up in there, got up in this stand, and we camped it out. And lo and behold, at like 8:30 in the morning, there he is. He's walking across the bean field, kind of all by himself. Now I think there was a doe in front of him, but we just couldn't see her. And she must have been just over the rise a little bit. Well, about 11:45, all heck just breaks loose over towards that hole across this bean field down in where this pond is in this bedding area, and it's real thick down in there. And it just sounded like two log trucks just smashing against each other. It was bothering me. And I'm looking at Kyle and I'm like, man, what do I do? This has been like 5 minutes now, and these deer are just tearing each other up. And all of a sudden, I just couldn't believe it. I see this big 8-point comes running across the field. There's just blood just pouring out of his mouth. And he just doesn't stop. And I look to my left, and there he is.
Yes! Yes! Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, we just killed a big monster. Yes! Kyle, I love you. I told you we gotta sit here, buddy. Yes! Thank you, God, you're so gracious to me. Yes! That was unbelievable.
He comes right into that scrape, 23-yard shot, and I just throw that Rage Extreme right through the back of his lungs.
We've been sitting here all day scrounging through our packs trying to find anything to eat. We got a picture of him last night right here on the scrape, and we haven't seen this buck for 10 days on camera. And I told Kyle, it just feels like we're hunting a ghost, like he's just not here. It's 11:36. With the time change now, it'll be really 12:30. This big 8 comes over, and we've been hunting our butts off for 5-6 days now. And I wasn't gonna be too picky. Yes, that buck right there I just shot was the one I wanted, but I would have peeled that 140-inch 8 too if he had stopped. But the good Lord knows what he's doing. That deer wouldn't stop. Kyle says another deer. I look back and here comes the monster right through here. He's got this big old long beam in the middle. I just smoked him right here at 22 yards. Can you believe we got it done?
Oh, it's been a long sit.
I mean, dude, he's big. Yes, thank you, God. This is how I do my bow ropes. And I run them right through my things or your cam or whatever. And then I hook them to my stabilizer. And that way you don't have any metal clips making any noise. See that arrow? It is soaked from one end to the other in red blood. Now that's definite good lung blood. So we're confident.
I don't think people understand how hard this filming deer is, you know, and hunting and trying to get on these big deer. It's not like it always just happens, like you just walk out and bang, Ben shot another, you know, 180-inch deer again, you know. Well, it comes with a price to pay, and it's a lot of work, and you got to play your cards right. And things came together, and we knew he was dead. I mean, we knew that he went through this little CRP field and down into this ravine, and we knew he was done. We kind of celebrated a little bit, and you know, the emotions just sets in of what just happened when you take a deer of this caliber.
My gosh, would you look at this giant? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is just, I don't know what you say. When you have as much respect for these animals as a guy like I have for these things, and the way I was raised, and they're just such a magnificent animal, and they're such survivors. I mean,
You know, he's got a weird look to him, but then when you get a hold of him and you look at him from the front, and he's got this big giant brow, and I mean, he's just an Illinois monarch. You know, he grows to 183 and some inches, almost 184. Just a massive buck, and you know, I owe this, you know, obviously to sticking it out, you know, the persistence of hunting that deer, but not penetrating those bedding areas, not pushing too hard, pushing the does out that he wanted to be with. Because if you scare them off too and you alert those, a lot of people don't think about that, but when you start alerting the does on your farm that they're being hunted, they're not going to move either, or they're going to leave. So then you take the bait away of the deer coming in heat. So you have to really treat every deer on that farm as that it's the deer you're hunting. And so we were really careful about that.
look how chocolate that rack is. He is a monster of a deer. Jesus. I mean, he's a monster.
This one, because we hunted so hard every day, all day, was a true grind. And it really felt good to get our hands on this big Illinois monarch. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's show, especially as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. It's you, the viewer, that really makes this show possible for us, especially in season 2, because of the reaction that we had from season 1. And you can tell the difference now as you've just watched this show. The production quality, just everything about it is different. Well, we couldn't afford to do that the first year. Well, now in season 2, we were able to pick up some good solid sponsors and people that believe in us for what we're trying to do. And that is all because you, the viewer, watch it. Hopefully you're digging what we're trying to teach you, and stay tuned for next week, because like I said, 2016 was the best year I ever had.
Stay tuned for scenes of next week's episode. Whitetail Edge is brought to you by Black Widow Deer Lures, Hoyt, Rocky, Hawk Tree Stands, Rogue Bowstrings, Redneck Hunting Blinds, Rage Broadheads, True Fire Releases, Ohio Food Plot Services, HHA Sports, Antler King, HD200 Ionic Mineral, Upwind Odor Elimination, Big Time, Black Eagle Arrows, Bronc Box, Exodus Trail Cameras, Wicked Ridge Outfitters, and by Woodbury Outfitters.
Dude, it's him. It's him. He's coming right down the trail right to us.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.